of Pretty Peaceful Crochet. I am so glad you have joined me this beautiful morning in my backyard in southwest Colorado, USA. And I'm going to tell you all about the Cactus Garden Blanket so you can prepare for our crochet-along. Let's get started. Hello and welcome to the Cactus Garden Blanket Crochet-along. I'm so glad you've joined us. Today I'm going to tell you some general information about the Cactus Garden Blanket Crochet-along, as well as show you how to do the first few rows of the part 1 pattern. So the Cactus Garden pattern is available on Ravelry.com. You can search for Cactus Garden Blanket or search for Pretty Peaceful. You can also find it in our Facebook group called Pretty Peaceful People in the files section. If you haven't joined the group, please join us. It'll be a really fun place to share your blanket and get some help if you're stuck, ask questions, get some color inspiration or some ideas for some colors to mix and match for your blanket. So this crochet along has 4 parts. Part 1 is this end of the blanket. Part 2 is the center section of the blanket. Part 3 is the other end. And part 4 is the border. It's a really simple border that will cover all of those yarn ends. I'll also show you a knotted fringe option if you prefer to have fringe on your blanket. So the first page of the pattern has some yarn recommendations. I have used Lion Brand Mandala yarn in Gnome for part 1, Peacock for part 2, and Gnome again for part 3. And that is my yarn A. That is the yarn that creates this raised diamond pattern. You'll also need a yarn B, the background yarn. And I've chosen Caron Simply Soft in black. Both of these yarns recommend a 5mm hook, so that's what I'm using for the whole blanket. We will use a smaller hook for the border. So choose any yarn you like and use the yarn, the hook size recommended on the yarn label. But be aware if you use a smaller hook size or a larger hook size, or thinner or thicker yarn, it may make your blanket larger or smaller than dimensions listed here. So this crochet along is offered in 2 sizes. The pattern is written for 2 sizes here, a small blanket and a large blanket. The small blanket is a good size for kids or a lapgan or a wheelchair blanket. It's 30 inches or 76 centimeters by 53 inches or 135 centimeters. This is half the width of the large blanket. The large blanket is 60 inches or 152 centimeters by 82 inches or 208 centimeters. So this is a good size for a twin or single bed or using on the couch. We have a blanket just about this size on our couch right now, and it's popular with everybody. My husband likes it because it's long enough for him to cover up his shoulders as well as his toes. So if you want to make a different size, you can check out this little section on the pattern here that says custom sizes. It's easy to make any size you want in this pattern because the pattern repeat is the same no matter what. So here is part 1 of the pattern. It goes to here, and for the large blanket it goes to here, and the pattern repeat is this box here. And on the large blanket, it's this box here. So for the small blanket, we have 2 repeats per row of the part 1 chart that I'll show you in the next page. And the large blanket has 4 repeats per row. So you could make a medium-sized blanket by repeating the part 1 chart 3 times per row. Or if you want to do a queen-size blanket, you will need 6 repeats per row. You can find the yarn yardage requirements here for the small and large sizes. For the medium or any custom sizes, you'll have to kind of estimate on your own how much yarn you'll need. This pattern is worked in the mosaic crochet technique, which means we're only using 1 color of yarn per row. We'll either use yarn A or yarn B. We're not carrying any yarn. So that's nice. It's not too fussy. All of the odd rows, row 1, row 3, row 5, are worked with yarn A. And that is what creates the diamond pattern here. So Lion Brand Mandala in my case. All of the even rows are worked with yarn B, which is the black yarn, background yarn in my sample. And we're not going to turn our work after each row. We're just going to keep the front of the blanket, the right side of the blanket facing us the whole time. And the ends, the rows will start and end always the same way. We're going to attach the yarn at the right side of the blanket and work to the left. If you are right-handed, that's what you'll do. If you're left-handed, you can start at the left and work to the right. And the charts are symmetrical, and the pattern is symmetrical. So you can go from left to right or right to left. It doesn't matter. So I'll show you how to start and end the row in the pattern in the video here. So all of the odd rows have some single crochet stitches and some double crochet stitches. The single crochet stitches will all be in the back loop only of the row right here. The double crochet stitches, we're going to dip down and grab the front loops of the row 2 rows below. And that's kind of the typical mosaic crochet technique. I'll show you how to do it here, and there's also lots of great tutorials online. Here's a little information about reading the pattern charts for you that I'll explain right now. So, part 1 of the Cactus Garden Blanket. Here is our pattern. We have a chart and we have the written directions here. You can follow either one, whichever you prefer. For the chart, each of these squares with the X, each square is 2 stitches. Each square with the X represents 2 double crochet stitches. Each blank or white square represents 2 single crochet stitches. So when you're working this blanket, we always have 2 stitches together. You're never going to have one lonely stitch hanging out on its own. And when you're counting, you can always count by 2s, 2, 4, 6, 8, which I like. It's nice and fast. So you'll know you've made a mistake if you have an odd number of stitches anywhere, odd number of double crochet stitches or odd number of single crochet stitches. So each square is 2 stitches. The pattern repeat is 64 stitches across. So that's, if you want to add a pattern repeat to your blanket, you'll add 64 stitches to your starting chain. The blanket I'm going to show you today, I am going to make a small size blanket using these scraps of Lion Brand Mandala yarn in the colorway Centaur, and a couple scraps from Chimera here, the greens. I'm going to switch it up a little bit from my large blanket, and I'm going to use these lighter neutral colored yarns for my background yarn B. And I'm going to use the more colorful yarns for yarn A to form the diamond pattern. And if you're using scraps, I think it's fun to make a little color card to decide what order you'll use the scraps in. So I decided to start with the dark purple here and move through the brown, red, gold up to the green in my center, which will be the center of part 2, and then work back out to the purple. Okay, so to get started, we have to make our first row 1. And I've listed 2 options here for row 1, option A and option B. Option A, I'm going to zoom in a little bit here. For option A, if you're making a small blanket, you will chain 133 and single crochet into the second chain from the hook and all chains across. So you'll end up with 132 stitches for a small blanket. For the large blanket, chain 261 and single crochet into the second chain from the hook and all chains across, and you'll end up with 260 stitches for the large blanket. Option B is to foundation single crochet. This is just a way that you can make your chain row and your single crochet row at the same time. And if you look at the end of the pattern PDF, you'll find a little photo tutorial on that. And I'm going to show you right now. So, row 1 is done with yarn A. And leave a little bit of a long tail. I forgot to mention the tails. If you're planning to make, I'm going to show you 2 options for the border. A border option that covers all the ends, and a fringe option. If you're not sure which one you want to do, leave it pretty long for fringe. So I'm leaving quite a long tail here because I'm going to show you the fringe on this one. For my large blanket, I did the border that covers the ends. So for the small blanket, chain 133, I'm going to show you the foundation single crochet option. For this, you chain 2, insert your hook into that second chain from the hook, yarn over and pull it through, and then chain 1. And I like to pinch that chain that I just made because that's where we're going next. We're going to insert our hook next, and it's nice to keep track of it. Yarn over, pull through both loops on the hook. Then we go back into the chain 1 that we made. This is our first foundation single crochet stitch, by the way, that little V. So now we're going to go back into the chain we just made, yarn over and pull through the hook, chain 1, and then yarn over and pull through both loops on the hook. So now we have 2 foundation single crochet stitches, 2 little V's there. Insert your hook back into the chain 1 you just created, yarn over and pull it through, chain 1, and then finish your single crochet stitch. So basically you're creating your chain row kind of right in the middle of your single crochet row here. I really love the foundation single crochet because I hate working into chains. I hate counting chains. You know, somehow it's always off, but these are so much easier to count and easier to hold on to. It's worth the effort to give this one a try, and your blanket will end up straighter for row 1. If you have not tried this before and you can't see this dark yarn I'm using, go to moogly.com. It's Tamara Kelly's excellent blog, and she has a tutorial video for foundation single crochet that is just fantastic. And she has left-handed and right-handed versions, and that is how I learned. So thank you, Tamara, for teaching me how to do this. It is really a game changer. Chain 1, finish our stitch. So now I've got a few stitches going of my foundation single crochet row. I'm going to keep going until I get to 132 for my small blanket. And if this is confusing to you, you can always just chain 133 and then single crochet in the second chain from the hook and all chains across. No worries, your blanket will still look great. So I'm going to keep going, and I'll meet you back here when I'm done with my row. I've come to the end of my row 1 here. 132 single crochet stitches for my small blanket. You'll have 260 for the large blanket. And I'm going to cut the yarn, leaving kind of a long tail here, and fasten off. And now we can start row 2. So if you've done foundation single crochet, you'll be working into the kind of the bottom of the chains you created. And I'm going to zoom in here to show you how to start a row. Row 2 you will repeat many times because it's every other row for the whole blanket. And this is also how every single row of the blanket begins. So I'm going to grab my yarn bee or background yarn. I'm going to attach it to my hook with a slip stitch and attach it to the first stitch of the row of row 1 with a slip stitch. Okay, I've got my yarn attached. I'm going to chain 1 and single crochet into the same stitch. And then the next stitch, I'm going to single crochet into the back loop only of the stitch. So I've got 1 single crochet stitch through both loops, 1 single crochet loop stitch through the back loop only, leaving this front loop available for row 3. So this is how every single row starts. You're going to attach the yarn here, chain 1, single crochet into the same stitch, single crochet into the back loop only of the next stitch. And for row 2, we're going to continue to single crochet along the whole row in the back loop only until we get to the last stitch. So a typical single crochet will go under both loops of the stitch, but we are just grabbing the back one and single crocheting through that. And this is what creates that the beautiful mosaic crochet texture. Row 2, and all even rows, these are all the same. It's just kind of a nice rest. You don't have to think. You can just kind of listen to music or chat or watch TV and not even have to look at your pattern. So it's nice to have every other row be a rest row on this pattern. So here we go, row 2. Single crochet through the back loops only. I'm going to finish my row until I get to the second to last stitch, and I'll meet you right back here. Okay, I've come to the end of row 2. I've single crocheted along the whole row in the back loop only of each stitch. And the last 2 stitches here are the same for every single row. We're going to single crochet through the back loop only of the second to last stitch. And for that last stitch, we're going to go through both loops of the stitch. So the first and last stitches of each row, you'll be going through both loops. And I will fasten off. And going through both loops for the beginning and end of each row helps to create a really nice solid edge that I think looks particularly good with fringe. So we're going to go back to yarn A for row 3. This is about the size of ball of yarn you'll need for the small blanket. It's small blanket takes 3 grams of mandala per row. The large blanket will take 6 grams. And let's take a look at the pattern here. I'm going to zoom out a bit. So we finished row 1, we finished row 2. Row 3 is where the chart starts over here. Only the odd rows are shown because every even row is just what we did, all single crochet through the back loops. So I also want to mention on the charts, those first 2 single crochet stitches at the beginning and the last 2 single crochet stitches at the end of each row are not shown on the charts. This is so it makes it easy to see the pattern repeat here. So let's take a look at row 3 in the pattern here. And it looks quite wordy because I want it to be really clear. And also I want to show you a little trick I use to keep track of where I am. This is highlighter tape that I bought at my local yarn shop. I totally love it. It is great if you happen to have a lot of distractions in your environment when you're crocheting, like kids or pets who need your attention in the middle of a row. And I like to kind of put this around the row I'm working so I can narrow in on the row I'm looking at, and then you can move this tape down when you move the rows. So I'm going to put that on my chart here too, so we can zoom in on row 3 only. Okay. Move it down a little bit more there. Okay. So for row 3, we're going to attach yarn A with a slip stitch to the right side of our work. We're going to single crochet through both loops of the first stitch and then single crochet through the back loop only of the next stitch. So this is just the start of the row. That's how every row starts. Let's do that right now. Find the right side of my work. Attach yarn A to my hook with a slip knot. Attach it through that first single crochet stitch where we went through both loops. We're going to attach it through both loops with a slip stitch. Chain 1 and single crochet into the same stitch. Single crochet into the back loop only of the next stitch. That's how every row starts. Now let's take a look at the next directions. We are going to DC double crochet in the front loop only, FLO, of the next 4 stitches of row 1. So we're working back into our previous yarn A row. And if you're working from the charts, front loop only in the next 4 stitches of row 1. That's represented by these 2 X's here. Remember, each X is 2 double crochet stitches. So let's take a look at what we're doing next. We are going to double crochet into the next 4 stitches. And we're not going to go into these 4. We're going to go into the next 4 from row 1. So here, 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 and here. These are the stitches, those front loops we're going to pick up. There's a photo of this in the pattern as well. Let's see if I can get in even closer on this. So, we're going to yarn over. I'm going to pull out this first little marker. Yarn over, grab that front loop, dip down and grab that front loop. Yarn over, pull through the hook. Yarn over, pull through 2 loops. Yarn over, pull through the last 2 loops. So I'm going to get rid of the needles here. And we've got our first double crochet stitch. It's going to sit kind of in front of your work. Now we need 3 more. 1, 2, and 3. So we have the first 2 single crochet stitches that start every row here. And then we have 4 double crochet stitches into the front loops only of row 1. So let's take a look at our pattern to see what to do next. For row 3, we're going to SC single crochet in the back loop only, BLO, of the next 10 stitches of row 2. And if you're working from the chart, that is represented by these next 5 blank squares. Each of these represent 2 single crochet stitches. So we're making 10 single crochet stitches into row 2. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Okay. So let's take a look at what to do next. For row 3, now we are going to DC double crochet into the front loops only of the next 6 stitches of row 1, working back down into that yarn A row. And on the chart, that is represented by these 3 X's. Each one is 2 double crochet stitches. So we're doing 6 double crochet stitches. We are going to crochet here. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, so now so far we have 2 of these little double crochet clusters. And we're going to go back and continue our row with some single crochet. So the next direction here is to single crochet in the back loop only of the next 10 stitches of row 2. And that is represented here by these next 5 white boxes, 2 single crochet stitches each, 10 single crochet stitches. So it can be a little hard sometimes if your work gets tilted to figure out which of these single crochet stitches to go into, which of these back loops to go into. So one thing you might try, that I tried the first time I tried mosaic crochet, is to count back here, and the number of stitches you skip back here are going to be equal to what's up here. So we've got 6 double crochet stitches, so we're going to skip 6 back here, 2, 4, 6. So the next one we're going to crochet into will be right here, this next back loop. 10 stitches, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Okay, you'll see that this 6 double crochet, 10 single crochet is a very common repeat for this pattern. The most common repeat, I think. So let's see what to do next. We are going to double crochet in the front loop only of the next 4 stitches of row 1. And that is represented here by my next 2 X's, 4 double crochet stitches. And this is the center of our little pattern repeat here. So we're going to go into the next 4. Instead of going through the row 2, we're going to go down to row 1. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Those are the front loops we're going to grab here. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay, so we're making some good progress here. Let's take a look at what we have to do next. I can already tell you, mirror images out from the center of the pattern repeat. So we're going to do 10 single crochet stitches into the back loop only next. Single crochet in the back loop only of the next 10 stitches of row 2. So we're going to be covering these next 5 white boxes here. Okay, again, if you're not sure, if you're supposed to go here or here, take a look at the back, and you're going to skip 4 of these stitches because you did 4 double crochets here. So you're going to skip those 4 and go right into this next one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay. Next, we will double crochet in the front loop only of the next 6 stitches of row 1. And that is these next 3 X's here. 6 double crochet stitches. We will take 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We'll grab all those front loops. and 6. Okay, so we've got these clusters of single crochet and double crochet. Getting there. Let's take a look at what to do next. I'm going to single crochet in the back loop only of the next 10 stitches of row 2, represented by these 5 white boxes. Again, you can count ones you're skipping, 2, 4, 6, and I'm going to go into this one right here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Okay. Next, we will double crochet into the front loop only of the next 4 stitches of row 1. And that is represented by our last 2 X's, 4 double crochet stitches on the chart. So this is the hardest row. Don't get discouraged if you're having trouble on this row. It's all going to be easier after you get the first few rows. It's always hard to hold on to these kind of beginning little baby birthing of a blanket here, but it will get easier. Okay, so we have our last 4 double crochet stitches here. Now let's take a look at our pattern, because this is where the pattern repeat starts. We're going to start over. Let me zoom out just a bit so we can see the whole pattern in a row here. So the next directions are to repeat the area between the asterisks. So we're starting here at this first asterisk, and we're starting over and working through that again. We're going to do that one more time for the small blanket, or you're going to repeat that area from here to here between these little asterisks 3 more times for the large blanket. So 4 repeats total for the large blanket, 2 repeats for the small blanket. So we're just repeating what's in the chart. We're not adding that 2 single crochet at the beginning and end of each row. Those are not shown in the chart. So we're going to start over again and do 4 double crochets through the front loop only of row 1. So now you've already figured out what to do. You just got to repeat for as wide as your blanket is going to be. 2, 3, and 4. So we have a cluster of 8 double crochet stitches, 2, 4, 6, 8 here. And now we can go back and see what's next. So we did the double crochet in the front loop only the next 4 stitches. Now we're going to repeat this part, single crochet in the back loop of the next 10 stitches. So we did the 4 double crochets. Now we're going to do these 5 white blocks, or 10 single crochet stitches. So to find where you're going to go, if you lay your work nice and flat, usually it's pretty obvious that next stitch to work into, but you can always count the skipped stitches on the back. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Back to the pattern. Now we will double crochet into the front loop only of the next 6 stitches of row 1. And that is covering these 3 boxes of 2 double crochet stitches each. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Oops, let's try that one again. Okay. Back to our repeat. Single crochet in the back loop only of the next 10 stitches of row 2. We're going to do these 5 blocks, 10 single crochet stitches through the back loop. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Now we will double crochet DC into the front loop only of the next 4 stitches of row 1. These 2 little X's forming the center of our repeat. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Now we will single crochet into the back loop only of the next 10 stitches of row 2. We are covering this part of our chart. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. We're getting to the end here. Very exciting. We will double crochet into the front loop only of the next 6 stitches of row 1 on our chart right here. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Oops. That 6th one is trouble, huh? Okay. Now we will single crochet into the back loop only of the next 10 stitches of row 2. That is these 5 blocks there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay. Let's take a look at our pattern directions here. Now we will double crochet into the front loop only of the next 4 stitches of row 1. And that is our last 2 little X's here. One, 2, 3, and 4. So now we've got 2 stitches left here, and we're done with our repeat. We are going to single crochet in the back loop of the next stitch, and then single crochet through both loops of the last stitch. And again, that is not shown on our chart here. This is just the way you start and end each row. Single crochet through the back loop of the second to last stitch, and single crochet through both loops of the last stitch. And we will cut the yarn and fasten off. So let's zoom out and admire our work here of row 3. If you manage to make this row, you can make the whole blanket, because this row repeats several times. We've got these alternating clusters of double crochet and single crochet through the back loop stitches to the end here. And now we are ready to start row 4. You will notice on the pattern, row 4 is the same as row 2. Row 4 just says as row 2. So row 2, let's kind of zoom in on that one again. So I didn't really show you the first time. We're going back to yarn B. We're attaching yarn B with a slip stitch. We are chaining 1, single crochet through both loops of the first stitch, same stitch as the join, single crochet in the back loop only until the last stitch, and go through both loops of the last stitch. So let's grab our yarn B background yarn again. I'll find the end of my yarn here. I'm going to leave a long tail, attach the yarn with a slip knot to my hook, and going through that first single crochet stitch here. Notice I didn't turn my work. We're keeping this right side facing us the whole time. The back of the blanket looks pretty cool too. For the next video, I'll have to get out the my large cactus garden and show you the back. So I've attached the yarn, chain 1, single crochet through both loops of that first stitch, single crochet through the back loop of the next stitch, and we're just going to keep going along our whole row until we get to the end, single crocheting through the back loop only. This is our rest row. You can say, I don't have to look at the pattern for a while or try to figure out what I'm doing. You just single crochet all the way across in the back loop only. So this is what your row 4 will look like, same as row 2. I'm going to work until I get to the end of the row here, and I'll meet you back here. Okay, so I've single crocheted through the back loop only of my whole row 4 here. Same as row 2. And I have 2 stitches remaining, and I'll show you how to end the row. It's the same as ending every other row for the blanket. We're going to single crochet through the back loop only of that second to last stitch, and then single crochet through both loops of the last stitch to create our nice firm edge. And I will cut my yarn and fasten off. And we are ready for row 5. So let's zoom out and take a look at our pattern here. I am going to move my tape so we can focus on row 5. Here. And on the chart. And I forgot to leave myself a little pull tab on this one. Okay. I cover up row 3 and zoom in on row 5. I really love this highlighter tape. Highly recommend. Okay, so row 5, we're going to go back to our yarn A, my dark purple yarn. You find the end here. And the row will start the same way as every other row we've done. I'm having trouble with my yarn ball here. Where is it? We will attach yarn A with a slip stitch, single crochet in both loops of the first stitch, single crochet in the back loop only of the next stitch. And this is not shown on our charts, so we will not bother with the charts. Leave a little bit longer tail here. Okay. So, going through, take a look at where that first single crochet stitch is. That's where your hook is going to go. Attach the yarn with a slip stitch. Chain 1, single crochet through both loops, single crochet through the back loop only. Okay. Now we'll get into our pattern repeat here. We're going to single crochet in the back loop only of the next 2 stitches of row 4. On our chart, that is this first little box, white box, which is 2 single crochet stitches. 1 and 2. Now we will double crochet in the front loop only of the next 6 stitches of row 3. On our chart, that is these 3 X's, 2 double crochet stitches each. So here's where we start to see kind of the overlap between these blocks that makes the pretty little diamond pattern. So we're crocheting, double crocheting into the next 6 stitches of row 3. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. The overlap is almost always 2 stitches between our blocks of double crochet. Sometimes it's more, especially in part 2, but usually just overlapping by 2 stitches. 3, 4, 5, and 6. So we've got our first little hint of our diamond pattern here from these overlapping blocks. Next, we will single crochet in the back loop only of the next 10 stitches of row 4. And that is these first 5 white blocks on our pattern. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Okay. Now we will double crochet into the front loop only of the next 6 stitches of row 3. That is these 3 X's on the chart here. 6 double crochet stitches. And again, we're going to be kind of overlapping blocks by 2 here. So the first 2 double crochet stitches are going to be going into the tops of double crochet stitches. And the other 4 we're going to be going into these little front loops of the single crochet stitches. 2, 3, and 4. Okay. Looking good so far. Okay. Next, we will single crochet in the back loop only of the next 16 stitches of row 4. And that is these 8 white boxes here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Each one is 2 single crochet stitches. So we're going to do 16 single crochets. 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 15 and 16. Okay. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16. Yes, counted correctly. And now we're going back to double crochet in the front loops only of the next 6 stitches of row 3. And that is these X's here in row 5. One, 2, 3, sorry about that, 4, 5, and 6. So again, we've overlapped by 2 to create this block. And I just quickly want to show you on the small size chart what we've covered so far. So we're starting to create this little diamond pattern here. So each of those little, this little diamond pattern here and here. That's what we're starting to create by those overlapping blocks. So let's see what to do next. Single crochet in the back loop only of the next 10 stitches of row 4. And on the chart, that is these 5 white blocks. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. And don't worry if your first few rows are curling here. That gets better as the blanket gets bigger, and also the border and tying the fringe can fix that. Okay, now we will double crochet into the front loops only of the next 6 stitches of row 3. And on our chart, that is these 3 X's, 2 stitches each. Just take your time if you're trying to figure out where to put your hook there. 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Next, we will single crochet in the back loop of the next 2 stitches of row 4. And on our chart, that is this last little white box. So we've overlapped by 2. Our blocks here, and we've got 2 single crochets. Now our repeat is going to start over again. We will repeat the area between the 2 little asterisks 1 more time for the small blanket, or 3 more times for the large blanket. So we're going to go back up here to the asterisk and start working from here again. until we get down to this asterisk here. So we're going to single crochet in the back loop only of the next 2 stitches of row 4. 1 and 2. And just keep going along our repeat here. We're going to double crochet in the front loop only of the next 6 stitches of row 3. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So I'm going to keep going, do that second repeat for my small blanket here, and I'll come back when my row is done. Okay, I've just finished my row 5. I finished that second repeat of the pattern, single crochet through the back loop only of the second to last stitch, and then single crochet through both loops of the last stitch. So you can start to get an idea of what this blanket is going to look like with the beginning of the diamond pattern. All of these yarn bee background rows are going to be the same. So my next step for row 6 would be to repeat row 2 again. And then continue on with row 7 and keep on going. So part 1 of the pattern, the repeat goes through row 33 here. Row 34 will be all single crochet in the back loop. And for the large blanket, you will work through row 33. I have a photo of what it will look like after row 34 for the large blanket. The small blanket will just be the center section of this, just the middle. And so we will repeat this chart kind of in a mirror image. So row 35 is the same as row 31 and 32. So 33 is kind of the center of our pattern repeat, and then we'll go back out mirror image. So this chart is what gets repeated over and over for part 1. For the small blanket, we're just going to do 1 repeat there, 1 full mirror image repeat. And for the large blanket, you are going to repeat rows 3 to 62 again. So rows 63 to 122 will be the same as rows 3 to 62. You could keep repeating rows 3 to 62 for your whole blanket if you like, it's up to you. Or you can move on to the part 2, which will be released on September 15th. So for the small blanket, this is what the whole part 1 chart looks like here. This is what your blanket will look like after the end of part 1. The large blanket, it's a little harder to fit this whole chart on 1 page of a Word document, but this is what your blanket will look like after part 1 of the large blanket. You can only do 1 repeat if you want, or you can do more repeats. It's up to you. It's really easy to make this blanket your own. So thank you so much for joining me. I can't wait to see your blankets. Please share them. They just look so beautiful as they grow. Please share your blankets with hashtag Cactus Garden Blanket. Join our Pretty Peaceful People Facebook group and share your blanket, and you can maybe inspire some other crafters. And also you can subscribe to the YouTube channel, the Pretty Peaceful YouTube channel here, so you don't miss the part 2 tutorial video. Thank you so much for watching.